Hi mga kapechay! Welcome to round 28. This is the 8th episode of our season 3. And tonight we will be talking about BDSM, a topic that so many have been begging for a while. But finally, I have the right person to talk with about it. And without delaying this any further, I want to introduce our special guest for tonight. She has been featured on several publications dito sa Philippines. Um, Preview Magazine, Status Magazine. She also was a former sex columnist for Scout Mag. She did BDSM performances. She was a nude model. And she is the co-founder and co-host of Now Open PH. It's not just a podcast, in my opinion. It's a great platform to educate the Filipino youth about sex and sexuality, which is what we're trying to do here. Pero I think the more the merrier kasi ang dami talagang dapat pang maging aware sa different issues and topics about sex. So, hi Trisha. Hello. Si Miss Trisha O'Bannon pala. Sorry. Hi.
That was like by far the best introduction
Oh my
I've ever
god.
gotten. So
No.
thank you. I'm glad I told you to surprise me with that. Thank you. Hi guys.
Okay, first, kung sakaling may nakikinig sa atin tonight who has no clue kung ano yung BDSM, let's start by defining it. What is BDSM? I think mahirap kasi siyang i-define in one sentence kasi feeling ko ang dami niyang ini-encompass na things, right? So how would you define it if someone was to ask you, ano siya?
You're right. It would take a lot more than one sentence because BDSM actually stands for 3 separate things. Technically, it's bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, and sadism, masochism. So just those 3 pairings that already encompasses so many things. But basically, it is a practice, a sexual practice that usually involves power play or pain and a lot of pleasure in some cases. So like I think that's how I would like just to a random person describe it as. It's power play, pain, pleasure. Those are like the 3 P's of BDSM. But
nice.
But yeah, it basically covers a lot of non-normative sexual practices, but they are still slightly different from what we call like fetishes or kinks,
Right.
Because you can have a kink that doesn't involve power. So for example, if you really like feet, great for you, but that doesn't really count as BDSM. But things like choking, spanking, degradation, those would all count under BDSM because there's an element of a power dynamic.
Right.
There's one person who's doing and controlling, and then the other person who's submitting and receiving.
Right, obeying.
Yeah, obeying.
Okay.
In some cases.
Yeah. Okay, since yun nga, parang 3 clusters of definitions, does it mean na to practice BDSM, you have to have all of those?
Oh, not at all. So many people in BDSM. Actually, when we talk about playing with other people in the community, one of the things you have to look out for is somebody who says they're into everything, because there is no chance in hell that this person is literally into everything. Like that's right. Impossible. You know, because there's just so many things that can be covered by the word everything. So most people don't like all of the things. Some people might like bondage, and that's all they like. And right. That's totally fine. They're definitely into BDSM. There might be people who, you know, only like sadism or masochism and none of the other things.
Right.
It's just they get clumped together because being into one thing sometimes does entail being into other things. For example, if you're really into sadism, then you might be into bondage because that's a way to inflict pain.
Yeah.
You know, but it's not necessary. but you can also practice bondage in a way that doesn't inflict pain. So just because you're into bondage
Right.
doesn't mean you're a sadist.
Yeah.
So these often go hand in hand, which is why they're clumped together. And chances are, if you're into one thing, you're probably into the other things too, because you're open-minded and freaky and trying to, try new things. But it doesn't have to be. And again, nobody is.
Yeah. So, walang rules na nakaset na you have to do all of this to be considered, Okay, so
I'd recommend trying everything, but
yeah,
I wouldn't say you have to do or like all of it.
Right. Because you won't know if you like something unless you try.
I don't know. Are there things you have to try first? Like, for example, I know that I don't want to do scat play, which is not BDSM, but still something that I don't have to try to know that I don't want to try it. But that's just a personal thing. So I wouldn't say that you have to try everything. But most things are worth a shot. Even like a baby version of it.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think everyone would have some idea naman of things that would probably turn them on and things that won't. So, ayun lang.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, if it's something that you hear about or see in a movie or whatever, or read, and you're just like, ooh, maybe.
Maybe.
Like there are certain tells that you know with yourself. So yeah, you don't have to try everything once, but I think it's helpful to at least learn about it, because that's how you figure that out.
Right. Okay. Let's debunk some myths, I guess. Many people believe that BDSM is linked with a person's history. Like, yung tao na yun has violence or abusive behaviors in his past life or even currently. And sabi nila, it's the reason why some people get into BDSM. What do you have to say about that?
I certainly do think that a lot of people with trauma, women, have been sexually assaulted or whatever. So the chances of somebody practicing somebody and having trauma is like, it's almost an inevitability. So, but there are still a lot of people in the community who've never gone through anything that could be construed as trauma or abuse, and they're still there. There's no direct link saying that if you've been abused, you will be into BDSM, or everybody with BDSM has this in common.
Yeah, so just because someone is practicing BDSM doesn't mean that they have to enjoy abuse or being abused in real life. And sometimes I think this is I know, it has to do something with stereotypes. Like, you won't know, minsan maybe the person next to you in a restaurant is into, dominance and submission. Wala siyang tell eh. As far as I believe, like, kung based lang sa physical appearance, you couldn't say, I think, kasi it's something that happens in the privacy of the bedroom.
Oh yeah, there was this really great photo series, I guess that's what it's called. This photographer went to some kind of kink event. It could have been a Pride March where, for some reason, the BDSM community is also there. But or it was something. It was an event with lots of kinky people, and they're dressed in kinky outfits with the leather and the gimps and all of the all the belts, basically. And then he asked them to come back a few days later. Look like, and we're also interested in these things, and I don't know if people have like a certain idea of a BDSM practitioner in their mind, but I don't know if we look like it. Maybe when I'm all dressed up and out, sometimes I do look like it, but usually they're people next to you. They're mothers, fathers, bankers, lawyers, doctors. They're everywhere.
Right. Because I was thinking, parang may stereotype na the dom or the sadist has to be a girl wearing all leather and heels and stockings and all that, or if it's a guy, like dapat he's wearing a tie, you know, parang all black suit, parang yun yung ano eh, di ba? Yun yung pinortray ng media probably, or porn.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say it's not like that.
Honestly, I do love black as a color. Most of my clothes are black, and that's just a preference. But I always wondered, is it easier to make latex and all these things in black? Like, because why isn't anyone making pastel pink latex? Like, I'm sure there's a demand for that. And honestly, you don't even have to wear latex.
Isn't latex like a fetish also?
Yeah, like it's way too hot to wear latex in this country. It's
I haven't tried.
And like just hearing from the people I know who've worn latex, like it takes so long to get in, you know, and I'm like, oh no, thank you. And honestly, it does feel kind of nice to be in an outfit. I think the outfits really help with getting into a mindset, because when you're practicing BDSM, you have to get into a certain headspace as the top to prepare, and also as the bottom to also physically and emotionally prepare for what you're about to receive. And the ritual of getting into different outfits can really help put you in that mind space. So when I practice with somebody new who's never done it before, part of the ritual I make them do is I make them choose like an outfit or nothing, you know, but basically a not normal state to get them into the zone.
Another misconception is that yung mga sub or yung mga bottom, they have to say yes all the time. Is this true?
That would be a bad sub and a bad top. Honestly, it's a worse top. I would blame it on the top. No, like that's like a huge red flag. If a dominant tells you you have to say yes to everything, like a blanket consent, that is a bad dom. That person's not a dom. They're just power tripping. So run away. And I think generally, if it's a sub saying that they will literally submit to anything, that's also a flag for me as a top. If I'm topping, because again, like there's no person who's into everything. And as a dom, one of my primary goals as a dom is to make sure that the person I'm doming is enjoying themselves. And sure, there's something to be said about deriving pleasure from completely submitting. Like even if this person doesn't particularly enjoy, let's say, spanking, but they're letting me do it because it's me exerting control, that's fine too. But a blanket consent is impossible, unsustainable, and really, really prone to, you know, being abused. So I'd say that even if you're in a 24/7 complete submission thing, there's still boundaries to that. And you're not going to say yes to everything. So no, subs shouldn't and should not be expected to say yes to everything.
I think everyone, kahit BDSM or not, consent is still the first thing pa rin na priority, and doms or subs can still pick and choose which activities they are and aren't interested in participating. And I also think na it could also depend, hindi lang dun sa activity, but like with the partner. Like I could say yes to this person sa activity na to, and then another person, I'm not comfortable doing it with that person. Could still be a yes or no thing. So ayun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even if let's say it's a thing in the BDSM community to have play parties. Like a lot of the people locally know each other. I think most BDSM scenes, if you go anywhere, there is a community and they hang out, they play together. I've been to a few play parties here, and you'll have a bunch of doms with their subs, and you're allowed to play with their subs, right? But obviously they've gotten consent beforehand, And they will even tell you, oh, this sub likes this. This sub says no to this. So even when you're renting, leasing out your sub, their needs and their consent matters.
Right. I wanted to try to visit or watch clubs because this coworker of mine, like unsolicited she showed me pictures of her engaging in role play, and I was like, wow. And she was talking about it, tapos, and I said, okay, I think I wanna visit some of these sa Manila. But then the pandemic happened, so I never gotten around to it.
Yeah, no, they're super fun. Like, I don't know if do we have clubs here? I'm not that involved in the local scene. As far as I know, it's just play parties, and they usually like rent a hotel or an event space or something, and it's by invite only.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ridiculous. But if you go to other countries, like Amsterdam, oh my gosh. If I could move to Amsterdam and just like apprentice under a mistress or something,
oh my
gosh, that would make my life.
Yeah, speaking of that, parang super random in a work meeting last week, biglang for an icebreaker, people asked, what's your ultimate travel destination? And I said Amsterdam. Just because,
Not sus at all. The cheese is good.
Yeah. Anyway, pero gets naman nila.
Of course. There's like 3 reasons to go to Amsterdam.
Yeah. So, ito pa. Another stereotype, I think. Kapag ba nagbi-BDSM ka, is it a requirement na may whips and chains na involved?
I mean, they're a lot of fun. They do enhance the play, but BDSM has nothing to do with the implements that you use. You can be a very, very effective dominant by just using your words and using random shit you find around the house. My friend, who's a dominatrix, likes to call them pervertibles.
Oh my god.
Yeah, these are like random household items that you can quote unquote pervert and use for perverted purposes. So like just like literally look around your room.
Right.
And then you can pick out like at least 10 things and like creative ways to use them. So we love to use books. They're great. They're great for hitting.
Right.
Like I've used the Bible once. That was kind of because it's very blasphemous. Or like you're reading from the Bible out loud while
right.
Eating you.
Oh
like,
my god,
that's really good. You know, you can use clothes you already own to bind somebody.
Right.
If you're into like water torture or whatever, that's cool. You know, there's just so many things you can use around the house. And again, your words are like the most powerful thing to use as a dominant, and it's more often than not words.
Yeah, I have to agree. Super powerful ng words. Some people have no idea.
Oh god, yeah. Like seeing somebody cry in front of you for the first time just because of words that you've used, it's like wow. It feels powerful.
Yeah, oh my god. How important is it to say I'm a first timer with sabihin natin lahat. I've never tried anything. How important is it for me to do research and to prepare mentally and physically before I engage in any form of BDSM play?
Like, you know how whenever you want to do something for the first time, like you want to cook or you want to change a tire or whatever, or replace the RAM in your laptop, which I did recently, you know, you look up YouTube tutorials, right?
Right.
You read about it to make sure you're not fucking shit up and gonna burn your house down or like sasabog yung laptop more or whatever. Right? These are just things that you do. Why wouldn't you apply the same thing to BDSM? I think it's so important to do research. I did research on BDSM for years, honestly, before I did anything about it. It was more like a curiosity, but I read up a lot about it. And if you're doing BDSM, that's like another person's physical and psychological and emotional well-being in your hands. And that's like way more important than your laptop or your kitchen. So I think it's really, really important to do your research. It can go wrong in a lot of ways, and that's really where the bad rep of BDSM comes from. It's from people who are either like extremely manipulative and abusive and awful, and they're using BDSM as a disguise, or it's just people who don't know what the fuck they're doing, and then they're hurting people left and right, and they don't even know because they're arrogant. It's really the arrogance of ignorance, I'd say. Because the more you get into it, the more careful you become, the more like a lot of the really serious practitioners I know, they've taken medical courses, they've taken courses on anatomy, science, because they want to know exactly how what they're doing is affecting you, and they want to know the best ways to mitigate the risks and to stop you from like having any kind of long-term damage. It's very, very important.
It's very well said. Sobra. Kasi I think the first time I tried it, there was some injuries, although minor lang. But then the difference I think is we both kind of recognized right away na maybe sumobra tayo sa ganito, sa ganyan. And next time, ganito, ganyan. So now, we always have first aid kits.
Yes, very good one. Very good to have first aid kits on standby, like right there. When I do rope, I have a pair of safety scissors in case I need to cut it. I've never had to, but just in case, because I've seen it happen. I've seen it needing to be done. But like research also helps you understand which injuries are urgent and which are fine, because you know, if you do any kind of physical play, you'll get bruises, you'll get a burn. But it's the difference between discomfort and like pinching a nerve and then losing all feeling and
oh my god,
or like even knowing how to choke properly is so important. Like I see these diagrams going around Twitter and I'm very happy about it, because people love choking, and choking has become kind of mainstream now. But because of that, like so many people don't take precautions. Like they're squishing the windpipe here in the middle of your throat when you should be pressing in on the sides. But a lot of people don't know that. They just kind of like put their hand on somebody's throat and squeeze. But that can be very dangerous. So I love that that's going around, because even small things that you wouldn't even think of, these are things that you will come upon when you research, and they'll make you a better dominant, they'll make you better at what you do, and they'll really prevent anybody from dying, which is extremely important.
Oh my god, because I think even with really simple toys like whips and ropes, you could hurt someone. Tulad nga na sinabi mo, lalo na with rope play, I think if you tie the person the wrong way, like serious injuries yung haharapin ninyo. So yeah,
absolutely. Like even like where you tie and where you put your knots are important. And put them on major arteries.
Exactly.
Because you're gonna cut off blood flow, and that's really bad. So these things are very, very risky. Like nobody is saying that these are perfectly safe. You know, no one's saying that no one's ever been injured ever, even if you've been absolutely careful. These mistakes happen with anything. But especially in BDSM, and especially if you don't know what you're doing. So if you're planning on doing it, I really recommend erring on the side of caution. Like, don't be like, bahala na, pwede na yan. No, this is like the one place that you cannot pwede na, bahala na yan.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so speaking of educating oneself, meron ka bang suggestions for reliable info and other resources about BDSM for our listeners na beginners?
Well, I'd say if you're interested in rope, the best local resource for it is Shibari PH, run by one of my very good friends. He also sells rope, so that's good. And I know they have stuff in stock because I bought some during this quarantine.
Cool.
Before the pandemic, they would have workshops and meetups. He also does one-on-one consultations if you want to do that. He's really great.
Okay.
Extremely practiced.
Cool.
And yeah, so he's a good resource. For general BDSM, I would recommend Dominant Chase's Humanistic BDSM. So she was actually our first guest.
Yeah.
Bonga.
I remember.
Yes, agad. But yeah, no, she's wonderful too. I don't think she's professional, but she's practiced extensively abroad and here, and now she runs this lovely community of people around the world. And her focus is on humanistic BDSM. So I really recommend that because there's a lot of resources online about how to do things, like technicalities, like don't hit here or whatever.
Yeah.
But I love her because she has a core philosophy
Right.
behind her BDSM where it's humanistic. It's supposed to be life enriching. So I recommend that as a good starting place because it doesn't just make you better like skills wise, but also ethics wise.
Cool. Okay. I'll put the links sa notes below, so be sure to check those out. It's funny because we're actually talking about Shibari kanina. Yeah. So okay. Since we're in the realm of safety and being prepared, what can you say about safe words?
Yes. I don't know. It's like a yes or no question. Absolutely yes. I honestly believe in the power of safe words, not just in BDSM, but in life. It's very good to have safe words with your friends, with your partners, or like an out of like I need a break, right? Like just a shorthand for let's pause. I'm not feeling great. That's just a general nice thing to have in life, and I really learned that from BDSM because for the first time I was like, I can express how something is not going the way I want to, and then the other person has to listen to me. That's amazing. Like you don't get that in real life all the time. So, like in BDSM, that is extremely important because you want a safe word that is not something you'd normally say.
Yeah.
Right? Like stop is a terrible safe word.
No
is a terrible safe word. So it has to be something that you don't say so that the other part, it's very clear to the other partner that you don't want this anymore. And the fact that they have to listen to you and a boundary being crossed. So it won't protect you from a terrible person not listening to your safe word, but having it there, it really allows you to be free. And know that no matter at which point you can say stop, like for real stop. And it is that trust that makes for really good play. It's that trust that allows you to explore things you normally wouldn't feel safe exploring. Because you have a card, get out of jail free card in case you use it. So absolutely have a safe word. I'll even recommend having multiple safe words for multiple things. The general is the stop safe word, and then the slow down safe word. You can even be the other kind of person and have an affirmative safe word so it's not really, I guess it's sort of still like a safe word, but if you keep saying it, then it's still okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then I also recommend having a safe gesture, which is not a safe word because it's not verbal. Because let's say you're being gagged or whatever, then you need a different way to communicate. You can't talk. So like squeezing the hand a certain way, like 3 squeezes on the hand is stop. Or some people even do this thing where they hold on to an object. And then as long as they're holding on to it, it's fine. But when they drop it, then you stop.
Okay.
Cool. So there are different ways to manifest, to just communicate your safe word. But I recommend having all of these because, like, why would you? It's like wearing a seatbelt and also having your airbags. Multiple layers of protection.
Makes sense. Okay. I'm learning so much. I'm trying not to talk about that movie.
I mean, we can totally talk about that movie.
But, okay, I'm just going to ask. Is it...
We all know what movie you're talking about.
I don't want to, actually. Is it always as spontaneous as Hollywood portrays it to be?
The thing about that movie is that They did get some things right. They did get the whole negotiating with a contract
Right.
thing a little bit right. What they didn't get right is that they didn't even agree on a contract and they already started doing things. Um,
Yeah.
I guess technically it is possible to do BDSM on kind of a whim, but especially if it's your first time or you're very, very new to it, I would not recommend that. I would barely even recommend it for people who are experienced but are playing with a new person, because it's like having sex with a new person. They're completely different from everyone else you've ever slept with.
Yeah.
So you have to get to know them, learn their limits, learn really what makes them tick, and that takes time. That takes time and a lot of talking. So the times that I have done BDSM spontaneously were with people I already trusted, because they were friends and I've known them for years. We've already talked at length about BDSM.
Yeah.
They know what I like, I know what they like. And then when we say spontaneous, it was more like, oh, I guess we'll do it tonight then. But it's not like completely spontaneous because we've had sort of years of prep. So I don't think it's something that you can do spontaneously. It obviously depends on the kind of BDSM that you're doing. If you're doing some mild spanking and calling somebody a bitch or a slut,
Right.
you don't really need too much preparation for stuff like that. But if you go into ropes, paddles, implements, or even like slightly more intense degradation, like that is a no for me unless we've talked about this and you know me and I know you.
Yeah, I have to agree kasi like in your mind it's something that really hot, right? Tapos when you get in the mood or you parang you get into a mindset na okay, it's the right time to do this. And then I asked my girl to tie me up. Tapos she got riled up because that's really hot, right? So she got the stuff. Tas ang tagal. Like I think it was our first time using that specific contraption, and it took a really long time. So think hindi always yung spontaneity ng BDSM isn't as spontaneous as regular sex.
Oh no, it takes a while to tie somebody up.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I get so tamad. Like I love it, I do, but like sometimes when you really want to have sex and you want to incorporate sex, because I've done BDSM that involved zero sex. I had a friend who was also a dominatrix, and I was like, hey, can I try that? And then she tied me up. You know, she hit me, did not touch me in any sexual way. That was not our relationship at all. Like, she was a friend, period.
Right.
But when you do want to incorporate it as part of like sex, I don't know, like it takes me like an hour to tie somebody up completely, and you're just like, and then you have to sit down and you have to drink some water, and you're like, wait lang. So you're sweating that.
Yeah, the powis is so real. Oh my god.
That's also partly why I love blindfolds, because I put the blindfold on them so they can't see me like you know, like getting a towel and just like wiping all my sweat away and then like sitting.
Right.
Sandali lang. You know, blindfold so that they get the mystery.
It's really cute. Like parang every 10 minutes, are you okay? Are you still okay? Well, with the right person, it could still be a really great experience. Pero definitely, it does take preparation. Let's talk about communication a little bit. During, before, and after. Why is it important?
Well, it's really important because a lot of things can come up during, right? A lot of, you could unearth some trauma accidentally, or you know, you could accidentally hurt this person, or you might get carried away and want to do something else to them that they haven't agreed to. So the communication before is extremely important, because you can free up your brain to not think about those things as you're going. Like when you embark on any kind of plan, like let's say you're writing something, you structure it first, you lay out an outline, right? It's kind of the same with BDSM. I have outlines before I do things. I don't plan every second, because that's also impossible, but at least helps you come up with a flow. You can agree on the acts that you're going to do, and then you don't deviate from that. Like you're not going to suddenly introduce like electric play,
Right.
surprise, here's a cattle
Surprise.
prod, or whatever, like that's shocking to the other person too, like they weren't able to prepare for it. So as a top, it's important to do that so that you're also free to
Enjoy.
like, yeah, you're free to enjoy because you're not busy.
Okay ba to?
Okay, but is this fine?
Right.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. And then as a sub, it also frees you up to, again, just sit back, relax, because you know that there's nothing coming your way. That
You don't have to worry all the time. No.
Exactly. Like, oh, I mean, like, obviously part of being a sub is that whole, what are they going to do next? But you're not worried that they're going to suddenly bring in a third person, and you're not worried about all of the uncertainties of the future. You're only worried about what you're already prepared for.
Right.
Because it does take a little bit to get into the space as a sub, because I'm a switch, so I've been both. I was a sub for 4 years, and then I started learning how to top. So I've seen both sides of the coin, and the preparation is so important for the sub because you know what to do beforehand to maximize your experience. So if you're not in a great place that day, maybe you can tell them, hey, don't talk about my weight because I'm feeling kind of bloated today. If you say something, it's going to hurt me too much. It's going to hurt me in a not fun way. You can talk about past traumas, like if you have a trigger word that you absolutely want them to avoid. And if you don't talk about that, the other person can't read your mind. Like, let's say, what if being called baby girl unearths some weird trauma in your past? They don't know that, so they might hurt you. So that's important. During, very important, because people aren't mind readers. Even if your top is supposed to be, try to be empathetic and try to read the room and whatever, you still have to be able to communicate your desires, because what if you change your mind? What if you realize this is going way too far? Consent can be withdrawn at any point. But how can you express that if you're not communicating? Same for the top. It's the top's responsibility to try and communicate with you during. So as you were saying, that you check in every 10 minutes or so, that's a good practice. You check in on them, you see if they're still okay. You check if you're being tied up, you check their hands to see if they can still grip, which means that they still have blood flow. You check their temperature to make sure you're also not
constricting.
Exactly. So, and you're checking to see if they can still take the hits, because obviously the longer you go, the less they can take. So these are all very important things to communicate during. And then the communication after, I think, is probably the most important, because even if you fuck up in the first 2 stages of communication, the after is your saving grace. It's like, okay, so we messed up, or whatever. And then you can talk about after, you can get feedback, you can see what you need to do better. But most of all, you can console each other. You can, aftercare is important because what it does is it brings you back from your subspace or your top space, and it takes you back to the normal world. So it's about normalizing your condition. That means physically and emotionally. So let's say I called you a dumb bitch in bed. Like, I obviously don't think you're a dumb bitch in real life. I'm going to tell you everything I said during that is just during the session. You're a good person, you're amazing, blah, blah, blah. So it helps them normalize and come back to a healthy, happy, functioning state. So that is absolutely important, because the aftercare, that communication, is what draws the line between BDSM and abuse. Right. Because an abuser will just leave you there crying. Exactly. But a BDSM practitioner would bring you a blanket, would make you tea, would ask you what you need to feel normal again.
That was actually my next question, aftercare. Because surprisingly, some people don't know about it. Not just BDSM, like, because I think it's important even in regular sex.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It could be in the form of cuddles or, just talking. But most importantly sa ganitong setup, right? Kasi it's a very intense physically and emotionally very intense experience for both. Lalo na sa sub, probably. It's good to consider it as a parang part siya ng buong process tapos siya yung wrap-up
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely brings out a lot of intense feelings physically and emotionally. I honestly would liken BDSM a lot to drugs in a way, because
Right.
the endorphin kick that you get from BDSM is very similar to the endorphin kick you get from
Right.
drugs. Even the idea of a subspace and a top space, it's kind of like being high on drugs.
Yeah.
And then when you're high on drugs, because your hormones are producing so much crap, you have to take a couple of days to recover, right? Because your body is still recovering and your brain is recovering from what you've just put it through. It's the same with BDSM. You need a little bit of time. Might not be for some people it might be a couple of days, who knows, if it's particularly intense. I've personally never taken more than like 24 hours, but that's me. Some people might feel it for a week. So aftercare is just really to make sure that, everybody, there's no long-term damage. Right. And also aftercare is a great time to, assess physical injuries and see if you need to go to a hospital or something.
Actually. Oh my God. I remember we were doing aftercare. While we were talking, like, yung evaluation stage, she was icing my body.
Putting creams and there's some aloe vera for that.
Right. So, at the same time, you get to talk about it if there were any parts na you didn't like or too painful, ganyan, and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, and it also helps you reestablish trust so that you can do it again. Because if somebody just leaves you after, I would never play with them again. Like, you left me. Why would I play with you?
Pangit naman nun. Hit and run.
Hit and run! I'm gonna call it that now.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
There's another myth. Sabi nila, people who do BDSM are all polyamorous. Is it true?
I would say that the chances of you being polyamorous are a little bit higher. There's a higher incidence of polyamory in the BDSM community, or maybe not polyamory, but non-monogamy, because one dominant may be playing with multiple subs, including in a sexual way. I don't know. They won't always have an emotional relationship, but it does happen a lot. But there's plenty of monogamous people who do BDSM only with their partners. There's also a higher incidence of being queer in the kink community. Yeah. There's a lot more people who are LGBTQ. Still lots of straight people, but it's just a nice, diverse mix.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it makes sense because if you're open to kink, it does make you more likely to try all these other things.
Yeah. We kind of touched about this kanina, but let's talk about toys. What are the different kinds of toys and accessories that people could use? Maybe not enumerate everything, but yung kung may categories para may idea yung listeners natin.
All right. Well, I guess the first category would be like restraints. So these are anything that you use to restrain a person, to themselves, to whatever. You can use obviously your ropes, your silk ties, bandanas. You can use a lot of things to restrain a person. You have your hitting implements. These are your paddles, canes, books, whatever, tennis racket if you have, I don't know, random stuff in your house. You have like your electrical playthings, which are your cattle prods, wands. I don't have any of those. If anyone wants to buy me one,
Christmas
take your donation. Then you just have like random torture implements. Like there's this one called the Wartenberg wheel where it looks like a pizza cutter.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I think
what it's called.
Yeah, like medical play. That's really popular in the BDSM community. So just random medical implements, apparently, scalpels and things. Yeah. Honestly, it's really essential to be creative in BDSM. You have to be very, very creative to get into it, and to sustain it, because you run out of ideas at some point. So toys are, pervertibles. That's why they're called pervertibles, because if you have a dirty enough mind, anything can be used for anything.
Yeah, you just have
Right?
to
Like,
be creative.
like if you have like a piece of Tupperware, you can make the other person eat on the floor. Like, bam, domination, right? Like, so easy. Stuff like that.
And I think nung una I was stressing about, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. But then parang, no, just forget about it. Whatever we find, we could use, and it's gonna be just as awesome.
Oh, yeah, I honestly don't bring out a lot of my stuff all the time. Partially because some of them are flimsy. Like, I've broken a riding crop. Like, I don't want to wash rope all the time, so I tend to not use them. I just use random stuff.
Right. Okay. What about if you're in a serious relationship, but so far you've not tried any BDSM stuff, but you're thinking about it, and parang as it grows on, you're considering introducing it into your relationship. How do you bring that up sa partner mo?
Well, ideally, if you have a partner and you're a serious relationship, you've already established some kind of honest communication, because if you haven't, what are you doing in this relationship? Do it now for other reasons, not just BDSM, like your life, please.
Right.
But so if you've already established that, then it should be really easy to bring up. It's just a simple, hey, so I would be kind of interested in trying out, spanking or choking, because like if you say you're interested in BDSM, you're probably already thinking about certain acts. You're not thinking about it in general. You're thinking about, oh, I want to be tied up, or I want to try calling you dirty names in bed, or something like that. So say, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. That sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
And I would always recommend to start small. It can be very, very tempting to go all out, to do everything in one go, and that's hard. It's hard, it's unrealistic, and it puts a lot of pressure on everyone. So try things like 1 or 2 at a time,
Right.
and go softly. So I would recommend like even practicing outside of bed. For example, if you want to do choking, just be like, oh, like, okay, like practice on yourself, practice on somebody else. Or if you want to try slapping, practice slapping, introduce it slowly, focus on like the ass first, because that's like an easy place to slap, and then increase the hit, like the strength and the distance and the force. Then you can try other parts like the face. I do recommend practicing when it comes to hitting. Just generally practicing your aim is very good, because I have seen it happen. I have seen it happen in front of my very eyes. A person who's never hit anybody before tried to slap 2 people in the face, and then she got into their eyes.
Oh no.
I was like, oh my God, girl, what are you doing? Stop it. Stop it before somebody gets blind.
Oh my God.
Because when you're in the heat of it, like you'll just be slapping, with no care, and then you will hit somebody in the eye. So, or the ear. The ear is, I think, even worse for me.
Oh yeah.
Like I lost hearing for like 2 minutes.
Oh my God.
Back. But I was so scared.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like practice very slowly. And then again, establish your safe words so that it's chill. And of course, always leave that door open where it's like, if this isn't what you want, we can stop, we can try something else. And yeah, so talk and practice.
Yeah, assess tolerance, kumbaga.
Yeah,
Before you amp it up.
Right, like if you're starting to drink, you don't start with 10 shots. You start with a beer, and then, oh, I kind of like beer, but let's try these other things. Or I don't like beer. Maybe wine will be better.
Right.
And you don't go for 2 bottles of God. So yeah.
Exactly. Let's say they said yes, they're gonna try stuff. What would constitute a healthy BDSM relationship?
A healthy BDSM relationship is with someone that you trust your being with, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're putting your well-being into another person's hands if you're a sub, And if you're a dom, you're taking somebody else's well-beings into your hands. So both parties have to be responsible. I generally would not practice with somebody who I didn't know had their shit together in other respects, I guess. Like they weren't a good person. But again, if you're in a relationship with this person, I hope that this has already been screened for.
Right.
So yeah. But yeah, that whole radical honesty is something that I learned from BDSM and polyamory. It's just being able to say when something is not working, or if you don't like it, like knowing yourself, knowing what you're willing to put up with and what your limits are. So I guess a healthy BDSM relationship starts with a healthy relationship with yourself.
Yeah. As
Right.
with most things.
As with most things, be a full, mature human being, and everything kind of flows from there. So radical honesty, but with radical honesty also comes with like radical acceptance, like not taking things personally. If someone says, "Oh, you're hurting me," or "I don't like that. That wasn't very pleasurable," don't take it to heart, because it's not about you. It could be because your technique is off, but that's just a learning experience. But good BDSM practitioners always take feedback, including doms. Like if you have a dom who never takes any kind of feedback ever because they know everything.
No.
There's always something new to be learned, especially even if they are like 40 years of practice and you're just starting. If you're a new partner, they have learning to do with you.
Right.
So you as a person are the absolute authority on yourself. So do not let anybody else tell you otherwise. I think that's how you can have a healthy relationship with BDSM, is by knowing yourself, enforcing your own boundaries, and screening partners.
Do you know of other misconceptions or myths about BDSM that you feel we have to debunk pa lalo today?
Well, I think one of the big ones is that people who are BDSM practitioners are evil, or they're sociopaths, or mentally ill. It's like, why would you be into that unless there was something wrong with you, right?
Right.
But one, there's something wrong with everybody. But also, I do know that studies have shown that people who practice BDSM aren't anymore, like, they don't have more social personality disorder, or whatever the term is. They don't have a higher incidence rate of that. We don't. So we don't have more psychopaths or sociopaths or people with mental illness.
Oh my God.
More than the general population.
Right. Parang, could it just be na for this particular person, this is the thing that turns them on? It's just the thing that they want to do in bed, right?
Exactly. And BDSM has always been about playing with taboos, playing with things that society considers weird or won't talk about in the open. Like, if you want to talk about sociopaths and sadists, we can talk about CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies. But like
exactly,
right? So we could talk about that. We could talk about politicians. We could talk about people who do real harm.
Right. Oh my God.
And no one calls. I mean, some people call them out, but not the same people calling out BDSM practitioners for being shit. So,
I think society na naman. No, I think it's just people who say these things they just feel attacked. Na their own personal individual belief system is being challenged by more and more people. Probably some of them are close to them and they want that to back off, to stay taboo, because I think they shouldn't be as taboo as they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, we have taboos for a reason. We have taboos because society said that, this is, you also have to understand why certain things are taboo. So femdom is a really big thing because we live in a patriarchal society. So femdom is all about men wanting to be dominated by strong, powerful women.
So many men.
Yeah, so it's a taboo we play on because of the way society is structured. Or we like to play with for example, like electric play or choking, things that, you know, could reasonably kill you if you do it wrong.
Right.
Because because death, fear, anxiety, this is all a taboo in our society. We don't like to talk about it.
Right.
And BDSM allows you to explore these things
Mhm.
because they excite you, because they're unknown. They're you know, it makes you confront things that you normally wouldn't confront, and that can be very, very powerful. And I can understand if people are attacked by that, because it does cause you to question like the arbitrariness of certain dynamics. Like, yeah, why are men always above women? Here, let's flip the roles and let's see how that works out. And you can see that it's completely arbitrary, because you can take power in any kind of form. So it's like, oh, well, if we can do this in BDSM, maybe we can apply some lessons to real life. And people take that as an attack because they are okay with the status quo, and and anything that challenges their own power and their own status in life obviously makes them scared.
Yeah, they're in that good position right now. So don't change anything.
Yeah,
I'm happy. I'm happy. Yeah. I think I talked about this a little bit with Coach Franco in a past episode where we talked about the dom and sub dynamic. Because I said I'm a switch if it's a girl and a man. Like, I dominate guys. So parang she was asking, or he was curious, bakit? Why do I sub with girls and why do I dom with guys? Tas, kasi sabi ko, parang in everything in my life, like you said, we live in this society na whether we admit it or not, it's still patriarchal in most things. Kahit sa jobs, kahit sa yung tingin lang ng kapitbahay mo, right? Punta ka ng government office, tapos, okay, but bakit ikaw yung breadwinner and all that? So, parang it's taking control, and it's also a play on power. I think yung pinaka main aspect of that. Tapos when that aired, so many guys were like, dominate me, please. So yeah.
Yeah, men do love to be done. I also get requests from a lot of men, and I'm like, wait lang.
Yeah. Tas sasabihin nila na it's not the norm, but I feel like hindi lang siya napag-uusapan as much. Kasi I feel like there's a good percentage of guys who have that kink, kind of.
Oh yeah, most of the men I've slept with, and there have been quite a few, have liked to be dominated. They just sometimes won't admit it.
Right. Oo.
They won't say it in so many words, but you get that kind of vibe from them.
Mm-hmm. As if nakakapagod yung power in real life, no?
Yeah, and like that's actually why I wanted to be a sub. Well, partly because I wanted to not have somebody else's well-being in my hands as a noob, so I wanted to experience it first. That was partly the reason why I became a sub. But another part is because I exerted so much control in the rest of my life, and I just wanted to blank out. You know, sometimes you just want to zone out.
That's exactly what I said about being a sub. Tapos, actually, it was my co-host from the previous seasons who first brought it up, and then I kind of internalized and reflected na parang, he said, it's because you're so independent. Parang, you know, you're the breadwinner, you're a single parent, tas parang in everything in life, you have to have control, you have to oversee everything. So that's why when you sub, parang it's the one place you can let go and just have someone else take control.
But you would never give that control to a man.
Oh no.
Just like,
yeah, I can't. I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't like subbing to men either. I mean, I obviously have, but it's not a preference. Now, if there's a guy,
it's not a
I
preference.
generally want to put him in his place. And
exactly. Gajan, parang. Okay. I don't have any more questions, but do you have any advice or final words to people who are either they feel curious about it, or it's something they want to try soon sa kanilang personal sex lives about, you know?
Well, I think that the best advice I can do, or I can give to anybody who wants to try BDSM for the first time, is really do a self-study. Do a lot of inner work first before you even think about bringing it up with somebody else. because it does make communication a lot easier. And so if they ask you that question back, you already have a response. But yeah, it helps you get to know what you want, but also why you want it, because the why can be very, very important and can change things about how you play. So for example, if you want to dominate someone, do you want them to feel small or do you want to feel bigger than them? Like those are two very different things.
Right.
Even though they both result in domination, right? So just even thinking about the whys of why you like something can illuminate you a lot about yourself and can inform your practice going forward. It also really helps to talk to other people who are into similar things. So yeah, those groups I mentioned, they have very active communities and you can feel safe talking to them because these are people who have been doing it for years or actually their groups are so big that you'll find other people who are also on the same level, like beginners. And yeah, just try to learn as much as you can. Like it's a really fascinating, interesting thing. You can go down a rabbit hole. You can watch a bunch of porn. Like it's a fun research topic. So
well, yeah.
But yeah, just read up, know yourself, and always practice with kindness and compassion. That is another thing. Like even if you're hurting somebody and they're crying in front of you, you still should have compassion, because like you want to be a good person and you want to make sure that the people you're experiencing this with are also having a good time and it's not just you. So yeah, be a good person.
Yeah, I mean,
is the general life advice.
Yeah, well, I mean, paglabas mo, still practice kindness. and again with the with make sure that hindi lang ikaw yung nag-enjoy sa play kasi at the end of the day, it's about pleasure, right? It's doing things that make you happy. Happy. But so and also kung magdodom sub rules siguro kayo, always be clear, like what you said kanina, with what's too much, what's too far outside your comfort zone, not just for the comfort level but also for physical safety actually. And most importantly, always practice honesty, communication, consent, and yung safe words na tips na binigay ni Trisha kanina. Why don't we invite people to your podcast, and if may other things to plug because you're a very busy
so you can follow me. Oh god, I wish I wasn't. Honestly, my dream is to just zone out and play video games, but but yeah, if you want to follow more of me, I'm at Trisha O'Bannon on Twitter. You should also obviously check out Now Open PH, our weekly podcast. We have a live video cast Tuesdays 9 p.m.
On Facebook.
I know that this isn't airing on Facebook. Yes, so Now Open PH on Facebook, 9 p.m. Tuesdays. You can also catch previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Basically, we distribute to all the major podcast network, podcast platforms, wherever you listen to podcasts, and we also upload full episodes, including video, on YouTube, so you can check out everything pretty much everywhere. For Now Open PH.
Just Google Now Open PH. Lilitaw lahat yan for sure. I enjoyed this episode too much, I think. Parang,
yes, thank you. It was really
it was really fun listening to someone talk about this, and at the same time it's something I really want others to learn more about. So yeah, I want to thank you again for saying yes. Oh my god, thank you for being a guest on our show. Kasi parang
I was just waiting for the invite.
Oh my god,
like, when is it gonna happen?
Oh my god,
I would love to guest on that show.
Really? Grabe.
Totally. You're like a little podcast legend.
Oh no. No. I remember when I guested on The Skeptic and the Rusty na live, you were on the comment section. Tapos sabi ko, oh
yeah.
No. Tapos I think the next week ikaw naman yung guest nila about Polyamorous. So I think, oh my god, no, I'm gonna take my time. Nahihiya ako.
Oh no. Well, I'm always open to guest again if you ever, I don't know.
Oh my
talk about
God.
anything.
I will not forget that. Okay, thank you.